Our goal should be to encourage people to vote in person on election day. We should not have mass mail-in balloting. We should not have early voting that goes on for weeks and weeks beforehand. And we should demand that systems are in place to ensure that ballots are counted on election day, not for days and weeks and months afterwards. And of course, anyone who votes should be required to show a secure photo ID. And certainly anyone who's registered to vote and or who votes should also be confirmed to be a United States citizen. What's so hard about this? First up, though, is election day, or is it election week, or is it election, it looks like, months? As you know, I've been highlighting the effort to undermine our election system by expanding the notion of election day to election weeks, election months. And we're seeing this in outrageous fashion, in my view, in Arizona and in Nevada, where there are at least 3 major races, maybe 4 if you count the governorship of Nevada. I'm not sure where that stands. And 2 of those races could essentially tell us who's going to be running the United States Senate, Republicans or Democrats. The Senate in Arizona, the Senate seat in Nevada, they don't know who won, or they are counting the ballots in such a way that it may take weeks, if not months, before we're told who is the winner. Now, I don't probably need to convince you that's outrageous. Counting ballots after elections, despite what the media tells you, despite what the big tech censors tell you, is inappropriate. It's not normal in the sense that it should be encouraged, and it invites fraud and undermines confidence that voters have a right to have in elections. So when you're counting ballots after election day, it raises questions inherently. And the media would like you to believe, don't ignore what you see, ignore the man behind the curtain in terms of election integrity, which is the endless counting of ballots in a way that, I think that honest Democrats, or at least voters, don't like this notion of elections going on for weeks. But, this is the reality of the left's restructuring of our election systems with the media's help, trying to program us to accept the decimation of election integrity. And in Maricopa County, Arizona, we've been investigating this as well. It was further undermined by the failure of, it's kind of a bipartisan problem in Arizona, because the state is the state official, Katie Hobbs, the Secretary of State who's running now for governor. Her office is responsible for machinery, and Maricopa County, obviously, generally, the election's administered by the Republican-controlled government there. And according to at least one lawsuit that was filed, upwards of 35% of election tabulators and printers were not working. So what happened there is that voters were trying to have their votes counted while they waited. Essentially, it'll be run through the machine, it tabulates your vote, and then you leave. But the machine wasn't reading, or many machines, or too many machines, however we want to characterize it, weren't reading the ballots. Well, I don't know, maybe they were reading it, but either way, they were getting rejected. And so voters were being told, well, you can wait online and wait for them to fix it, or you can essentially drop it in the box, supposedly a secure box, and it would be counted later, at least hand counted. Well, I don't even know how they'd be counted later, whether they'd be hand counted or tabulated in a different machine. Or you could take your ballot, I guess, tear it up and go vote somewhere else. So, sounds confusing, doesn't it? It sounds something that you might not like to go through if you're just trying to vote. It sounds like something that makes you think, I don't know if my vote's going to be counted. It sounds confusing in the sense that I don't know what to do. Maybe I just won't vote. It sounds confusing in the sense that these directions are difficult to convey generally, and are they being conveyed directly or correctly by the numerous myriad election officials who were stuck having to explain why the machines weren't working. And indeed, as I report to you here, my understanding is those ballots that were unable to be tabulated on site, but were left behind by voters thinking they'd be counted later that day, still haven't been counted. So you've had this systemic breakdown of on-site voter tabulation that was planned in Maricopa County. And Maricopa County, for those of you outside of Arizona, is the biggest county in Arizona. It's where most of the people live. It's kind of like the New York City of New York. It's basically where everyone lives. And with all due respect to the wonderful residents of Arizona who live outside Maricopa County. And so this is not a small matter. So no one knows when these votes are going to be counted. And then on top of that, you have in Nevada, Clark County accepts ballots mailed as long as they're, quote, postmarked on or before November 8th up until Saturday of election week. So we don't know when those ballots are going to be counted. Last I saw, the official said, we expect unofficial results next week, next Thursday. When are the official results? Who knows? So the idea that we have these key races in, Arizona is one of the most important states in the union, certainly when it comes to elections, and we don't know who's winning one way or another, or who's going to win, because the numbers change depending on what batches are arbitrarily released in a way that undermines confidence in the elections. So I want to repeat again, this is what our goal should be. Our goal should be to encourage people to vote in person on election day. We should not have mass mail-in balloting. We should not have early voting that goes on for weeks and weeks beforehand. And we should demand that systems are in place to ensure that ballots are counted on election day, not for days and weeks and months afterwards. And of course, anyone who votes should be required to show a secure photo ID. And certainly anyone who's registered to vote and or who votes should also be confirmed to be a United States citizen. What's so hard about this? You know what's so hard about it? That policy, those basic election integrity measures, are opposed by the left. Why do I think they oppose it? Because it makes it harder to steal elections. And they want to be able to steal elections when possible. There's no other reasonable explanation. It doesn't necessarily impact individuals who are voting it by race or any other classes. So there's nothing discriminatory in these regulations. They pretend they are, but there aren't. You can see that in Georgia, where you've had this tremendous turnout, irrespective of the increased security measures for voting down there. So as long as we have mass mail-in ballots, we're going to have elections that people won't have confidence in. And if conservatives want to kind of be able to compete, forget about the issue of the law and election integrity. You want people to vote and to feel like their votes are going to count. And if they think their votes aren't going to count, they're not going to participate. And I tell you, the best way to ensure that people don't participate is to have this mass mail-in balloting. And because conservatives don't trust it. And the evidence is if elections are more secure, people of both political parties are more likely to participate. Minorities are more likely to participate. So the failure to address this mail-in ballot, the increase in the use of mail-in balloting, the mass mail-in balloting, undermines election integrity. And as in the case of Arizona, it wasn't even the mail-in balloting. It was just a lack of either incompetence or I don't know if it was corruption. Certainly we're going to be asking questions. But this casual approach to counting ballots and being told is perfectly normal. It isn't normal. It isn't normal. And anyone who tells you it's normal is promoting a partisan left-wing talking point. People want to know who won the election on election day or election night, not 3 weeks later. Because any adult looking at that recognizes that as an opportunity for fraud, and it undermines confidence people have in the results. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.